Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. And it's just Marco here once again. I am here to review Studio 666. And first off, I apologize for my lack of knowledge about music. I really don't care about music at all, except if it's in movies. Like, I'm not someone who obsesses over bands and, like, the people in the bands and, the drama behind the scenes and stuff like that. I really don't care uh, unless it's, like, something to do with a movie or something like that. So, I don't really know anything about this group. I don't know if I've ever heard their music before. I don't know. I really don't know. Like, I can't uh, remember ever hearing like one of their songs ever. So uh, that's not really why I just watched this movie for the movie, and that's just a warning because I know that a lot of people, if they'll do the same old thing where if you don't know what the movie was about, like with The Sopranos and everything, they're gonna immediately discredit my opinion, and which I really don't care about, but I'm just saying as a warning. So I thought this movie, this sounded like it'd be a pretty good movie. It sounded like it'd be a pretty fun movie, and it was filmed in secret, and it seems like it was like a passion project or something, and it seemed like a lot of fun. And I didn't watch any trailers. I just went into it without any expectation except, oh, I think this looks like it'll be a lot of fun. The poster looked pretty cool, and I heard John Carpenter was doing the music. And I really think, what I think about John Carpenter's music? I think that the president should like make his music making like free for all filmmakers, like all indie filmmakers. And I think that like there should be a list, and all the indie filmmakers should get on the list, and they should just all get soundtracks from him for free. And then I don't know, he could make money off of the profits from the movies, because I think that if all indie filmmakers had John Carpenter's music, they would all immediately be better, because his music, the thing that I like about his music is that it immediately improves anything that it's in. Like, even though I hated Halloween 2018, there were parts of it where his music helped the movie, even though the soundtrack itself was very random and scatterbrained and didn't really make sense at all as a complete score. But it really helped the movie at some points. And just thinking about, like, I can remember every single time, like every single score that he's done for the movies that I've seen. Like last year, I, I saw Assault on Precinct 13, and that music was just so fantastic. And I was like, you know what? Like, this movie, it's an easy A plus movie, but his music makes it like an A plus 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 plus, because it's so perfect and it just fits so well. Like, I don't know how you begin to like make music that fits that well in a movie. Like, it just feels so natural, that it's a part of like every single movie that he does. And so I really I wish that like indie filmmakers could just get soundtracks from him all the time, because then all indie movies would immediately be 10% better at the very least. Probably like 30% better if we're being honest. And this movie started off with sort of like a Halloween esque scene. You had this, you had Jenna Ortega, and it's really funny because this is the third movie of hers I've seen this year. I don't know why. And I guess I'm going to also be reviewing her Adams Family series later on this year. and I'll probably not like that because, well, that's a different story. But it immediately starts off with her getting killed. It's a very Halloweeny scene. The music sort of reminds you of Halloween. It's a very cool scene. And then you have this group, the Foo Fighters. Again, I don't really know any of their music. I don't know who they are. I've heard of them before, though. I've heard the name before, which is par for the course. I've heard a ton of band names, and I'm always like, oh, okay, that's they sound pretty cool, I guess. And it's all about how they're doing their 10th album, and it's the same old story with like creative people where they've done really cool things in the past, and they need to do their next thing now. And people are tired of waiting. When are they going to do the next thing? When are they going to get together and finally do the next thing? And so you have Jeff Garlin, and he is their manager, and he sets them up in this haunted house where that murder took place in the opening scene, and they try to create their album while the band is getting screwed around with, to say the least. First off, I'll say that I really liked the movie at first. Like the first 30 minutes, it was very fun. It was kind of funny. The problem was with the comedy was that these guys, they're not really actors, and so some of the jokes really fell flat because of their bad delivery. Like there was a joke in the, I don't know if it was meant to be a joke, but I guess it was a joke because it involves balls, where I think it was Dave who said, "Yeah, we're gonna get this album made before your balls sack gets turned into a coin purse," and it was that same delivery that I just did. Like it was very one note and flat, and it didn't have any sort of like sting to it at all, like a joke should. And there were a lot of lines like that in the movie that really fell flat because of the bad delivery from the non-actors. And the jokes that did work, there were some jokes that worked with these band members, especially later on in the film as things are getting more and more intense, quote unquote. But yeah, I actually and then the movie, after a while, there was this big middle chunk where I really was not liking it because it started to really fall flat. I was like, okay, this is just it's just meh. It just started to really fall flat, and then they had this third act that was really good, and it kind of fixed everything in the middle. It kind of made up for it, I should say. And the third act is probably the best part because that is the part where that's the part where everything hits the fan and where everything goes crazy and everything. So overall, I think this movie's fine. It's fine. It has a lot of redeeming qualities about it. It's very self aware, and it doesn't take itself too seriously. At the same time, I don't know. I'm kind of getting sick of watching things that don't take themselves too seriously. Like, I kind of feel like people, and this doesn't really have anything to do with this movie in particular, it's just like movies and TV shows in general. I kind of feel like people nowadays make movies and shows, and they just make them self-aware so that they don't actually have to put any effort into making it. Like, because if people heard my criticisms of this movie, they could just say, oh, well, it was just a fun comedy movie, and it wasn't supposed to be a straight up horror movie. It wasn't supposed to be blah blah blah. And it's like, I feel like people just are able to use that excuse for everything nowadays. Like, even with the Sopranos prequel movie, from the trailer, you thought the movie was going to be all about the Tony as a teenager, and his relationship with his uncle. But then the movie's just this terrible, boring, trash movie about his uncle, and it's sort of like a just an uncle origin story, and his whole stupid story. And then people would say like, oh well, it's your fault because you expected blah blah blah. I'm just getting kind of sick of that. Like, in the 80s and 70s and 60s, do you really think that? I mean, I feel like if the people who made horror movies in that time period, I mean, I feel like they would be insulted if people laughed at their movies and said, "Oh, that's just a stupid horror movie." Like it kind of devalues the whole genre. This sort of comedic take on everything. That's why I've really been not liking the X-Files because as of late, I'm on season 8 because they make everything a joke now. They make everything just, oh, let's just have these meta jokes. Let's just act crazy and have crazy stories and laugh at everything, and it's like it really rubs me the wrong way. And it kind of got to me in this movie, even though this movie itself, I don't blame them for not taking it too seriously, because if they did, it would probably be worse because they're not actors, quote unquote. They're just they're music people. They're musicians. So I'm kind of glad at the same time. So I'm kind of mixed about this movie. I kind of like it, I kind of don't. My favorite stuff, there were some really good things, and I want to go over these good qualities of the movie. I really liked the kills. The kills in this movie were gory, they were bloody, they were lots of fun. There was one kill near the end that I just really loved that involved a symbol. I won't say anything else. And it was just such an awesome kill. And all the kills in this movie were really good. I mean, these are probably the best kills that I've seen this year so far. Oh, wait a second. No. Well, Texas Chainsaw, that movie's kills obviously are better. But this is a close second. And also, I love the music. John Carpenter's music was pretty perfect for this movie. It wasn't great. It wasn't like a legendary score, but it was really good. And I was so glad that... You know what I was expecting from this movie, honestly? Since this is a movie about a band, I was expecting for this movie to be like a shitty musical movie where they would like stop the plot at certain points and play songs. And I was so glad that they didn't do that and that they just stuck to making this a movie with a plot and a story, and they only played music when they were practicing for making the songs and trying to come up with the songs. There wasn't any moment where it's like, oh, Dave Grohl is feeling sad, and so he's going to stop the movie and sing a song about how sad he is. And I was glad about that because I hate musicals so much. I hate them. Ugh. I despise musicals. And another great thing about this movie was, what's really funny about this movie, speaking of Jenna Ortega, I just got done this weekend reviewing X, which just came out on Friday, and that movie was a piece of shit. It was so bad. It made me angry. Like if you guys noticed watching that review, I was really angry in real life. And so it really showed for that whole review. That was not an act at all. I was very upset how bad that movie was. This movie was kind of like what I expected that movie to be. Like, this movie had much better pacing. The story made a lot more sense. The characters were a lot better. They were a lot more three-dimensional. They all have motivations, even the villains. And so I really like this movie just for the simple fact that it gave me everything that X was supposed to give me when I watched that crap. So I was glad that I actually decided to watch this movie and review it, even though it's later and it's probably not going to get as many views as it would have the day it came out. I am glad that I got to see the movie that I expected X to be, because that was really disappointing and upsetting, and it might be like one of the worst movie experiences I've ever had, because I was just so upset that it was so bad. And it's like, how could you screw up this simple movie, this simple horror movie? And you got the fact that since it's a modern horror movie, people are gonna immediately overrate it and say it's the greatest thing of all time, because that's what they do with everything that comes out nowadays. And that's another thing with this movie, is that I don't think that anyone who reviews it is going to really overrate it. I think that even hardcore fans of the band are going to be able to say, like, yeah, this is pretty good. Like, and so I'm glad about that, because I don't know, like, it just, it's a movie where, it's, that they're not making it like a hardcore straight up horror movie, but honestly, this is a better horror movie than most of the horror movies that have come out recently, because it had a lot of fun with what it was doing. And there was this one particular scene where John Carpenter was actually in the movie, and I really liked that. That was a lot of fun. And there was another little side character who delivered food to them all the time, and it was pretty, everything with him was pretty funny. And so I actually kind of like this movie. I don't know if I'd ever watch it again, but the one thing that I really did like about it, that kind of makes me want to watch it again, like right now, is that the movie, it's all about this band, and they're trying to create their 10th album, and it's just them in this house together. And watching them do that, kind of, it's kind of inspiring. It kind of like sparks creativity, the way that you're watching this group of people trying to create this music in this haunted house, and you got all these horror elements. That's another thing, is this movie would have been great to watch on Halloween. It's a very Halloweeny movie, but it really makes you want to do stuff that's creative. And a lot of movies that are about creating things, they really don't make you want to do creative things. Like, let's say if you watch Barton Fink, where he struggles the whole movie, he just basically copies himself, and he fails the entire movie. That movie really doesn't make you want to do anything creative at all, even though it really should make you want to do stuff that's creative, because that's what the movie's about. But this movie, I felt like this movie like actually makes you want to get out there and make music. And so I really think that people who are aspiring musicians should watch this movie, because then they'll want to go out there and make their music and join a band and do all that stuff. And honestly, too, the people who made this movie, they should have made Bill and Ted 3, because then that movie would have actually been good. Like, that's another thing, was that this kind of felt like Bill and Ted 3, but good. With the story parallel a little bit. So yeah, overall, I like this movie. I didn't like some things about it, especially the middle part. It kind of dragged, and not saying like it needed to be shorter, but I'm just saying in terms of the stuff that happened in the middle kind of dragged, and so it should have been rewritten a little bit and changed around to make it more exciting. But the first act and the third act, that was really good. I liked that. In terms of food, this movie, there's a running joke in the movie where Dave, he says that he's good on the grill, and and he's really I guess he's really not that good on the girl. I don't really know. I mean, they make a joke about it in the movie, but who knows in real life? Maybe he is good on the girl, maybe he isn't. I don't know. But this movie reminds me a lot of, you get a hamburger, you put it on the grill, and you're having so much fun that you realize that it's a little overdone, it's a little dry, and so you cover it up with a lot of ketchup and mustard and cheese and other toppings that you like to put, and then you eat that. And for a side, you have frozen fries. Now, the thing about frozen fries is that they can be really, really good, or they can be really, really bad. There's just this thing you have to acknowledge: when you eat frozen fries, you're kind of getting lesser quality than you would if you just made the fries yourself, or you got fries from a restaurant. So the fries are kind of mixed, but overall it's a good meal and it satisfies you, and it's definitely something that you'd eat again for sure, because it's a simple meal, hamburger and fries. I don't like to eat the bun anymore on my homemade burgers. I just like to eat the burger naked. But to each their own. So that's my food review. For spoilers, I really loved how Dave Grohl was going crazy this whole movie, and I loved how he killed off his entire band. And there's all these funny scenes where he's like cannibalizing people, and he's like eating a raw steak, which, God, that looks so gross. Ugh. Just eating this raw steak on his salad. And then the stuff with the delivery guy, there's this funny running joke about the ranch dressing. He's like, I asked for extra ranch. And the delivery guy's like, okay, I'll run and go get some. And he's like, I'll just use the marinara. And so all that stuff was really funny, because that is so accurate. Like, I don't think people realize that people who go to these food places to get food out all the time, like creative people, I don't think that normal people realize how many times people screw up your order, like in the most simplest ways too. And it is a common thing to not get ranch dressing. Like, I like to go to Wendy's and get, well, I used to like to go to Wendy's, and I like to get ranch dressing with my fries. And I swear, it's like they don't even hear me or something, because they never give me any ranch dressing with my fries. And so I'm always like, God, I wanted ranch dressing. Like, their ranch dressing is really good, and it works so well with the fries. And then the most recent time that I went to Wendy's, I asked for a large chocolate frosty, because I was really thirsty, and I thought this will be great after doing these long reviews. And they gave me a medium vanilla frosty, and it tasted like vanilla yogurt, and I was like, God damn, like these places, they just can't stop. Like, they'll just screw up like in the littlest ways. Like, there's no consistency at all. So I could really empathize with that. In terms of the ending, it kind of got a little muddled at the end. I really didn't understand like some of the stuff that happened. Everything kind of exploded at the end. And there was this other band that was in the house years and years ago, and they came back all of a sudden, and they like read the spell book to end whatever happened. It was like very confusing. And then it turned out that Jeff Garlin was the villain the whole time, and that he put them in that house on purpose and everything. I thought that was a good twist. I love the ending where Dave Grohl was all by himself, and he's just going to be a one-man band from now on, and he's still possessed by a demon. Because I love that, the way that, a lot of people, they talk about how band groups are all satanic and they're all possessed by demons. And so I loved how this movie actually took all that stuff literally, because it really worked. Like, I'd love to see more movies about the entertainment industry, like being corrupted by uh, Satanism or whatever the fuck, just evil forces in general. Like, could you imagine if they did, instead of doing Ghostbusters Afterlife, they could have done this with the Ghostbusters cast? That would have been pretty cool, honestly. Uh, so, anyways, please like this video, comment. What did you think about Studio 666? Did you like it as much as I did? Because I know it doesn't have a very good rating on IMDb for some reason. And then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more movie reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.